Hello and welcome back to Let's Talk More on Monday. As always, I am your podcast host, Chloe, and today we are continuing our Issue 10 Influence Contributor series. So we sit down with contributors from the magazine that have written a piece or have contributed to the piece in some way, and we find out what the piece is all about, how it all came together, and what they want people to take away from it. And I think this is especially pertinent since the theme of issue 10 was influence. Everybody has a different way of looking at influence. Everybody thinks about that term in different ways, and everyone approached their piece with an idea of what influence means to them. So today I am talking to Regina and Jade, who contributed to a piece all about motherhood. And I'm so excited to get to talk to you guys today about this. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So let's get into it a little bit. As of the time of the recording, issue 10 is not available, but once it comes out, if you are listening to this right now, you will have an opportunity to pick up issue 10 Influence. So make sure to go do that, read the piece we're about to talk about. But if they're listening and they haven't done that, Regina, why don't you tell us, first of all, let's have you guys introduce yourselves. Tell us who you are, what you do, and what this piece is about.
Yeah. So I'm Regina Sloan. I'm a mindset nurse, and essentially my background is in nursing. I spent a lot of time in ICUs and just helping people through very difficult parts of their lives and just learn through that process. And my own personal work that I've done that I really love to help people with their mindset, their emotions, and really just create the life that they want. And so I have since transitioned since 2023-ish to helping people with those, taking my skills and transferring it to those kinds of things with them. And I wrote the article about motherhood, and Jade helped me with her visuals. I actually haven't seen the photos. I decided that I wasn't going to look at them until the magazine came out.
That's exciting.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I know, because I said I was going to look, and I'm like, you know what? I was a part of the process, and I just want to see what happens in real life when I see
Mhm.
them.
That's
Love
going
that
to be
element of surprise.
yeah.
I'm excited.
How about you, Jade?
Yeah, my name's Jade Gutierrez, and I am local to Indianapolis, but I'm from Fort Wayne. I am a part-time librarian, part-time freelance photographer, and I do all kinds of photography, basically anything anyone will pay me for or not pay me for if it's like an interesting project. I work with nonprofits, but I also do portraits. And yeah, I just kind of love the creative space and I love seeing what's out there opportunity wise and experience wise. And that's just kind of where I'm at currently.
So how did you get involved with this piece specifically?
Me? Well, Regina and I met at a Indie Hub networking event. I
Nice.
used to do photography for Indie Hub, and I saw an event and I thought it looked cool, and I got there late, but it was cool. And yeah, it was very interesting to meet all the different contributors. They had, different people who were making creative moves in Indianapolis, and Ariana was one of them. And we both spoke to her about what we were looking to do. And I told her I was a photographer, and Regina pitched her piece, and she said, "Hey, why don't you two talk?" And we did talk, and history was made.
It's amazing how it all comes
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, that was like literally how it happened. Like it's interesting because I went to that event not expecting to do any of that or have any of those conversations. Like Jade, I was just like, this is interesting, have no idea what to expect. I'm gonna go and see. And so that's my first time meeting Ariana too, and a lot of people. The conversation piece, Patrick from there, like so many people. I think Create Connect Collab were the only two women I knew there. And yeah, Jade was like, okay, like Ariana was like, hey, you two, this sounds great, collab. We were like, okay. And a month later, like we were making it happen.
Mhm.
That's so great. I love to hear how things are curated, and sometimes it truly is kind of a happy accident.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I love when, you just meet someone and then you're like, "You do a cool thing, you do a cool thing. Let's create a cool thing." Just,
Yeah.
when people are really open to stuff like that, it's very cool.
Right.
Yeah.
That's I feel like that's most of the reason that Ariana wanted to start more in the first place was just to connect people who are already doing amazing things and elevate their voices so that more people can experience their magic. So,
Yeah, it's exactly what's happening. You guys are
so
awesome.
oh, well, thank you. We appreciate
Mhm.
it. So, Regina, I want you to talk a little bit about this piece, what the inspiration was, and for those that maybe haven't read it, what does influence mean in the context of the piece?
Yeah. So what influenced it, honestly, it was a spur of the moment. I had heard about more at that event. I think that was the first time I've heard the word kind of float around of this local magazine, but I wasn't really sure what it was about until she was explaining it. And I just really felt like it was such a wonderful idea. And she set such a beautiful platform for people. So when I was talking to her, it literally was an idea that just came up in the moment. I was like, well, how would you think? I think she had told me what this season was going to be about influence, identity, those kinds of things. And I was like, well, told her what I did. And if she was open to me talking about like that from a perspective of motherhood, I've never done this before. So I was kind of very nervous and was slightly hoping she'd say no, but she was totally, she was like, yes. So it was a lot easier than I thought. And so, motherhood, I guess, when she was talking to me about it, that's the first thing that came to mind. And I think about it, I think it's really just because I was a mom at 15. And so literally it's been my entire life. And so a lot of my decisions, I think every decision I've ever made has been in some kind of way influenced by that responsibility. And also my oldest is 19 now. So like it has since changed and transitioned. And I just thought it was a cool dynamic to add to the conversation of how influence can show up in that space.
Yeah,
And you
absolutely.
asked me a second piece, what does influence mean? So for me, it really is simple. It's which is interesting. That was a hard question for me to answer when I was writing this piece. So I never really thought about it. But what I came up with, just really reflecting on my life and like what I do for work and what I do as a mom, and it, just connecting with women, which is my favorite thing to do, is that it's really just how I show up. Like all of us, everyone influences somebody in some kind of way, whether you're a mom or not. And I think that me and Ariana was talking about that, had this piece, yes, I'm talking about motherhood, but as women in general, we have influence in so many different ways and so many facets, and good or bad, depending on how you look at it. But really, just how I show up, the words I use, the tone I use, the interactions I create. And I don't think there's necessarily a good or bad thing. It's just, it helps me to be mindful of how important that is in spaces that I'm in.
Yeah. And I love that you talk about, how your influence on your kids can mean a lot of things. Like it can determine how they interact with other people in their day-to-day space or how they think about certain situations. And again, like you said, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good or a bad thing. It's the way that you approach new situations, just trying to be
Mhm.
as mindful as possible. And I think it's so interesting that you're also a mindset nurse, like that. It just feels like that's so pervasive in your life.
Yeah, actually, you saying that, I think also that I hadn't really thought about was when I got into coaching myself, like as a client, when I first found a podcast and was really struggling with a lot of things. The first thing I learned in coaching and just really changing my mindset for the better was how much my childhood influenced my current decision at that time, like what I believed about me, what was possible, the goals I could set and reach, the things I could do was all influenced by the adults in my life and how I was raised and what I brought with me. So I think that also speaks to me about how important I feel motherhood is since I've learned that.
Yeah. And I love that you said that it's not just mothers as well. It's all women tend to be caretakers in some way
Yeah.
or another. It's just kind of, it's inherent, it's in our genes, right?
Yeah.
We tend to care for the people that are around us in one way or another. And to just have that approach to it is very meaningful.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I would love to ask you a little bit about what your writing process was like. You mentioned that you'd never done anything like this before. What did you just sit down and kind of crank it out, or how did that look like for you?
It
Everybody
was a
approaches it a little differently.
it was a I don't know if I can cuss on here, but an S show. You know what I'm trying to say? Like literally, like if I were to be honest, because it's not something I've done. I don't frame myself as a writer. I do a lot of like, particular examples on social. I use all my social media platforms to help people, with their goals and things. So I do a little bit
Yeah.
of that, but like to write something from start to finish and then to present it to a community that they don't know me, I don't know them, who's reading, just a different
Right.
experience. I was very anxious most of the time, very nervous, very I had to catch myself being very critical and judgmental and like scratch this, scratch that, it's got to be perfect. And so interestingly enough, what I talked about in there around like there is no perfection, I kind of had to take that same process with myself through this writing and just like, listen, what I might say in a year or 5 years from now may be totally different from today. I'm just speaking from my experience. It's like no one else's. And so when I was able to get myself to that space, really it was just me asking. I used Chat GPT and I was like, hey, ask me questions about motherhood that I could to really help me kind of get the juices going. And then I took that, I journaled, and then I thought about the community and who would be reading this. Moms, people who have children, people who don't, women in general, people who love women and support women just in that space, and how I could create my own lane of influence in that way, like helping people to see motherhood and the influence we have just in general in that space a little bit differently. And
Mhm.
so I created that process and then I kind of just wrote. It really was just kind of like this brain dump all over the place. And then I tried to put the pieces together as best I could.
Yeah. Sometimes that's what you got to do.
Yeah, it was interesting. I have a newfound respect for writers, like for sure, for sure. It was an
That's great.
enjoyable process. I think the when I finally was like, okay, this is it. Like, what does that even mean too? Like when I would love to like speak to writers, like, how do you know this is it? Because I'm just like, okay, it just has to be it because the deadline's tomorrow type of deal. That I gave myself my own deadline. But really it was cool to be like, man, like this is a piece of work that I've created that just came from my brain and it's like no one else is, and it just create a newfound respect for people who share their thoughts, that might be different from other people's and may be judged, and it's like my truth, it might not be anyone else's. So that was cool. It's very vulnerable, but it was exciting too at the same time to really be given this opportunity.
Yeah, I'm so glad. I'm
Yeah.
going to turn the mic over to you, Jade, at this point, because there are some beautiful photos that accompany this piece that Regina has not seen as of yet. When you're listening to this recording, she will have been able to crack it open. And if you guys are coming to the pre-launch happy hour, I will also be there. I'm very much hoping to see that magical moment when you get to open this magazine and see your story and your photos in print. It always gives me chills.
Mhm.
But Jade, I want you to kind of take us through your creative direction for this photo shoot and how did it all come together?
Yes, great question. Well, Regina and I had a couple of conversations before I was like fully set on the idea and the direction that I wanted to go with. I mean, obviously, it was a really collaborative process. She gave me some ideas, and but she was really open and willing to let me like try some different things. And I just from reading like her drafts and just kind of getting the gist of like what she was thinking about even from like the very beginning, I was really inspired because I love this idea of like motherhood as influence and just kind of thinking about how, I don't know, how sacred that is, and I guess how like important the idea of motherhood as influences, because it's like mothers are like the original influence on your whole lives. Like they encode who you will be and what you will, how you will interact with the world. And so I don't know that I wanted to come up with a concept that like externalized that in a really tactile way. And I think of myself as an artist, even though that's kind of feels a little high minded, but I am just like, I love to create. I love the process of like having an idea and bringing it into the world. And so I was trying to, I kind of naturally thought of the influence of motherhood in the way of like creating art and like your children are your art in a kind of way. But also, if you talk to anybody like who thinks of art as like a creative process, there's a lot of, you'll come up into this idea of like the medium is also a co-creator in the art with you.
Yeah.
And so that just seemed like motherhood to me. And then just from a like logistical standpoint, I was thinking like what would look good on camera. And then I was like, I made the connection of like motherhood, clay, molding the clay, influencing the clay to become what it wants to be.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, take a mother, Regina, her children, and clay, and how they like whatever, I don't, how they mold it. And I don't know. I just thinking. Basically, I just thought clay, and I was like, "What do you think, Regina?" She thankfully liked it, and it seemed a little bit kismet because like she had the perfect space in her house in order for me to like create this vision. Like she had like
Right.
a big table and lots of natural light, and her kids are cute, so that's also a plus.
Really?
And so I just brought a bunch of air dry clay and some lights and my camera, and I was like, let's figure it out.
Yeah. It's so cool to hear that because when you see the pictures, it all feels so intentional and calculated, and every shot is like you planned it, but a lot of it was probably just what was happening in the moment, and you just happened to shoot the shot. And you mentioned like clay would be fun, and then it just became like this metaphor for motherhood itself. So I
Yeah.
love
I
that.
mean, if I know anything about clay and with photographing children, you really can't plan it out too much. So you just kind of
Fair
have
enough.
to let it go and see what happens.
Yeah, I've gotta say, like, now I'm like, "Man, can I wait until the 11th?" The 10th, I'm not sure. Like, we talked about these, so, like, I wanna see 'em. I just wanna plug in here too for Jade, like, that she didn't mention, like, it's funny because I wrote this, we thought a motherhood influence and all that, but she was so patient and so kind and a reminder for me that, like, they get to just do. Like, I had a lot of, like, in my mind as mom, like the photos need to be, and is this okay? And this is okay. And like she picked up on the energy, like, oh, they're fine. Like they're just even like my 19-year-old who was like, most of the time, like this is stupid. Like his energy, she's just like flowing, like this is part of the process, and it just gets to be. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. That's very nice of you to say. But I
Yeah.
think it just melded well with my typical process of creating photos. I really like to just capture what is happening. I like a documentary style. Maybe it comes from like I do a lot of event photography and I like to be a fly on the wall and just like get what's naturally happening.
Right.
And even in portraits, I really like the natural moments. You have to like kind of create them if you are making portraits, but
Mhm.
just like to let people be and like capture them as they are. And
Right.
this was a really great opportunity for that.
That's so meaningful because that's the way that we see them. You don't see people posed and smiling. You see them in the moments when they're laughing, in the moments when they're thinking, and it's real. So when you see somebody's headshot, but it's just them on the street, like that's so much more of a connection instead of like here are my kids all lined up on the couch, and we also have clay. Like no, they're getting their hands in there, they're getting dirty.
Yep.
That's so great. Well, I think that'll do it for this episode of Let's Talk More on Monday. We are going to dig a little deeper over on our Patreon about this piece and what it means and some lessons that we can maybe take away. So make sure you join us over there. If you do join us on our Patreon, you are supporting our mission of making opportunities reachable for everyone and helping us maintain our internship program, which is so near and dear to our hearts. So we hope to see you over there. But ladies, before we go, anything you want to plug, anywhere our listeners could find you? I'll let you
I'll
start,
go.
Regina.
Okay, I'll go. Yes, so I am on Facebook at Regina Sloan Coaching. I'm on Instagram at Your Mindset Nurse, and I'm on LinkedIn at Regina Sloan. You can find me in all the places, and I always have something going on and open for people to come explore what coaching is all about. And you can reach out to me.
Amazing. How about you, Jade?
Yeah, I am. My business name is Jade Eliza Media, and you could find my website at jadeelizamedia.com. And I'm on Instagram as well at Jade Eliza Erez, Errez, last part of my last name.
Amazing. Yeah, so hit them up in those places, learn all about what mindset coaching is, and if you need some portraits done in the Indianapolis area, make sure to hit up Jade. But ladies, thank you so much for joining me and for talking about this piece. We will see you next week when we dig deeper with some more contributors about their piece in issue 10 influence. And if you haven't picked up your copy yet, what are you doing? Go get it. It's a really good issue. We're so excited about it. So thanks, ladies.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll see you next time. Bye bye.